another guide. Today is Promar Ahi USA Tuesday. And you know what that means? That means to pay attention and watch out for that QR code to save 10% on your entire order. And just Dave Hansen, your saltwater guide, will be joining us shortly to talk about that all important topic, anchoring on the spot. It is important. Even I know that. So, hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us. And here he is, your saltwater guide.
Yay, Kelly girl. Woo-hoo. All right, everybody. That was Kelly girl. What do you think of that? There she is. Thanks for introducing us, Kelly. Thanks for getting the show going. We love you very, very much. And thank you. Thursday, we're going to have Kelly girl on the show the whole time. We're going to complete a little bit more of our interview where she was interviewing me and asking me questions about my life because some more things have popped up her and I have been talking about. So we're going to get
a lot more things popped up.
Right? A lot more things.
All right.
So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk some more about that on Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned for Thursday. And then we have a phenomenal guest with us on Friday. We have the great RJ Boyle from RJ Boyle Studios, and he has a charter boat, and he fishes in Florida, and he's the man as far as deep drop goes. And he's kind of the guy that came out and taught me and Pete Grossbeck, Mike Maddox, that East Coast style deep drop thing right before the thank you, Jack, right before the code was broke. And him and we were out on the Wild and Sac, and we had a plethora of people on the boat, and we did a little school there, and RJ showed us all about how to do it. So we'll talk about all that and much, much more. And he came out here for that big tournament, the big swordfish tournament, and they took first place in that. He'll talk about that. He'll talk about a lot of stuff. RJ Boyle is a plethora of information, and he is basically one of the reasons why I started Your Saltwater Guide, the website. RJ Boyle and I were talking about it the whole time we were out fishing for swordfish on the Wild and Sac 6 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever it was. It was a while ago. But we got him on the show on Friday. He'll be our special guest. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a really good show. I think you'll all get a lot out of it. He's got a beautiful tackle store there in Florida. Kelly and I went and checked it out. We bought a bunch of stuff when we were there. So he'll talk about his tackle store and all kinds of stuff. And then what I want to tell you all about is we still have a couple of seats. I don't even know why, but we have a couple of seats still available for the big dinner that we're doing at the Hubs Research Center in San Diego. We will be there. The big dinner, the Anthony Shea Lifetime Conservation Award is going to be handed out to Bill Shedd. Kelly girl and I will be there. We have a table at the event. You get to have dinner with us, sit at our table and have dinner with us. Grab that QR code I just put up on the screen. Those of you on TikTok that don't have that QR code, go to the cca.org. That is the conservation organization for the state of California. That's the only voice we have at the table for this. Every time we turn around, they want to close something in California. So all the money that's going to be raised at this dinner is going to CCA. But also at the same time, Bill Shedd, owner of AFCO, and his father was Milton Shedd, the original human being that put together SeaWorld. It was just an idea he had, and he sat down and put together SeaWorld back in the day. Now you know all about SeaWorld, but back you don't know how it all started. If you want to see all that and much, much more, I have a phenomenal interview with the man, Bill Shedd, over on our website, yoursaltwaterguide.com. You can find out what they really used to do with those killer whales before Bill's father saved them and put them in the aquariums. It was kind of a sad story, but it's definitely a story that needs to be heard. Plus the life of Bill Shedd. He talks all about his life. We got about an hour and a half interview with him 6 years ago. And now he's going to get the Lifetime Conservation Award presented to him by Anthony Shea. If you guys don't know who Anthony is, he's the owner of Bad Company. They're doing that world tour. He'll be there at the dinner also. He'll be chit-chatting with you. He'll be wandering around talking to everybody at the dinner. The really cool thing about this whole dinner thing for me, I'm kind of a SeaWorld geek. I kind of love the ocean. I love seeing what's going on. We're going to start, the reception's going to start at the Hubs Research Center. That's where they raise the eggs of the white sea bass and the eggs of the halibut, and they have the hatchery program going on there, and then they put them out in the bays and do all the different things. We get to start out there. Then we're going to take those baskets over to SeaWorld after hours, and we're going to have a beautiful dinner on the SeaWorld property. All that is available if you grab that QR code right here in front of you on Facebook and YouTube. And if you haven't, go to ccacalifornia.org. Those of you on TikTok, and go check out the Anthony Shea Conservation Award presented to Bill Shedd, and you guys can have dinner with us and do all those fun things that Kelly and Girl and I are going to get to do. I think it's going to be an incredible night. It's going to be spectacular. Make sure you grab the QR code, because I'm going to pull that down right now. But I think there's a couple of tickets left for our table. And then I was talking to Wayne, and he was saying they might add an extra table because we sold those 6 tickets so quick. We got 2 tickets left for our table, and then we'll see what happens. If you want to set with Kelly Girl and I, well, I know you don't want to set with me, but if you want to set with Kelly Girl and have dinner, we will be at the event on the 3rd of August. So check that out. And then today is Promar Ahi USA Tuesday, like Kelly Girl said. So we will show you some products that I believe you have to have in your tackle box when you go fishing in Southern California. And we'll flash the QR code up in a little bit and talk about Promar Ahi USA, because that's what it is. They've sponsored the show every Tuesday. And everybody that went over to Opson yesterday and checked out the store, we were blown away. Greg, myself, and Elliot, thank you very, very much for everybody going over there and checking out the store. And we will have the name for you next Monday on Opson Monday, and we'll tell you who won that free spool of line just by visiting the store. And you can still visit their store this week and get entered into that. It's opsonusa.com. All right, gang. So today we're going to talk. Yesterday we talked about the 5 things that I believe you need to have. We're going to keep that going. And like Kelly Girl said, we're going to talk a lot about anchoring, because that is super important. And I know, a lot of you are going to say, I never anchor. I always drift. And my sister's aunt's cousin and I, we caught a big white sea bass drifting. Well, we don't go out there for one. And one thing you need to understand is the ocean is a giant oasis with a giant desert with tiny little oases in it. Those little oases are called the spots. And you got to be on the spot in order to catch the fish. Now, we're not talking about bluefin tuna fishing, which I know a lot of people in Southern California nowadays have been spoiled for the last 5 or 6 years because of this bluefin that showed up into our water. But man, there are so many other fish to catch in Southern California. So much other stuff to do that's way more fun than driving around spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on fuel. Now, I know that's fun for some of you. I only like to catch tuna. Then sell your boat and just go out on a sport boat. If you only like to catch tuna, then you're wasting your time with your private boat, because you have to pay for your private boat year round, and you have to pay for your dockage and your storage or whatever you have. So it'd be cool to learn how to fish for the fish that actually live in Southern California or Florida or Texas. I don't care where you are. All fish are structure-based, just like the bluefin that are showing up out here in Southern California right now. They're showing up on banks. They're showing up on high spots. They're showing up on the edges of the banks and the edges of the high spots. All that is structure. Why is it showing up on structure, and why is structure so important? Because structure is where the bait fish hangs out. So when you got the bait fish hanging out on the structure, it's only natural that the big fish will go there to hunt for the bait fish, because everybody has to eat. That's what they're doing. They're all just out there eating, and you're just hoping and praying that they eat your bait. So That's why it's going to be imperative as we talk about this more about anchoring up on spots and how to anchor on them and how to do all that stuff. And we're going to get deep into that. But we're also going to talk about how you're missing out on what is going on because you're not reading the conditions. There's a time and a place to drop the anchor, and there's a time that it's not a place to drop the anchor. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to talk more into that. We're also going to talk more about your anchor and your ground tackle, which would be your chain and your line, anchor line. We don't want to piss anybody off and say anchor rope, because I know that I'm not professional if I call it rope. We'll call it line. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. The reason I call the left side of the boat the left side, and the right side, and the back, and the front, and rope and line and all that is because I'm talking to everybody. I'm just not talking to you that knows all the nautical terms and your port side and your starboard side and your bow and your stern. We're going to lose 3/4 of our audience if that's how we speak. Believe me, I've been doing this my whole life. I know starboard, port, bow, stern, line, rope, all those terminologies that you think are so important that you love to jump on me and beat me up about. But I'm just trying to tell you, I know the difference. I'm just trying to help the masses understand what we're talking about. All right. So first thing you all need to understand, if you're going to go fishing in Southern California and anchor up at the islands or anchor up on the coast for fish, you're going to want to know what your ground tackle is. You're going to want to know how much rope and how much anchor line and how much chain you have. Now, if you have a 30-foot boat, you only need about 35, 40 feet of chain. You need the length of your boat and chain, and then you're going to need 300 or 400 feet of line, rope. That's what you're going to need for anchoring up in Southern California, Oregon, Washington, the Gulf Coast, Florida, wherever you're going to anchor up. That's all you need. If you started to anchor up the way it says in most of the books, you're not going to have enough room on your boat to hold all that ground tackle. I'm telling you, from a guy that would anchor a boat on a normal day running a sport fishing boat, we would anchor 15 times a day on a day trip. That would be an average day, unless we got real lucky and we only had to drop the anchor once, like Sonny was talking about the other day. One anchor day. That is spectacular. If you can pull that off in the industry and only anchor up one spot for the day, that's spectacular. But 90% of the time when you're fishing on a sport boat, you anchor up a lot more than one. Because why? Because first of all, when we drop the anchor, the conditions may not be what we thought they were. What are the conditions? The current and the way the wind's blowing is going to affect the way your boat lays. So we'll pretend like this iPad is our boat, and the rock's over here, and this is the back of the boat, and we want the back of the boat to be pointed at the rock. Okay, but when we drop the anchor and we find out that the current's going this way and the back of the boat's pointed straight into the computer, but the rock's over here and we can't get our baits to the rock, we're going to have to reset the anchor and change it up and make sure that the rock is behind the boat. That's what I'm talking about conditions. And really, we don't really know, even those of us that have been doing it our whole lives for a very long time at a very high level, we don't actually know which way the boat is going to lay. We don't know if it's going to lay up or down or in or out. We do our best, look at the situation and think that, okay, the wind's coming out of the northwest. We don't see any buoys in the water or anything. We're thinking the bow of our boat's going to be pointed northwest with the wind coming down. But we throw the anchor over and the higher power may have a whole different idea, and the back of the boat's going to point absolutely straight into the wind because the current is going against the wind. That's when we're going to have to pull the anchor, readjust, or maybe just go to a whole different area, a whole different spot where the current's going the right way. All these things matter, gang. And if you approach this whole fishing thing in a lazy way and you well, we don't anchor. I don't anchor. I don't believe in anchoring. I don't like to anchor. I don't know how to anchor or any of those things. You're approaching it in a very lazy way, a half measures avail us nothing type of way. You're approaching it and you're just like, well, we're just going to drift. Well, that's not going to work unless you're fishing for halibut in an area where you know there's halibut. It's not going to work out too well if you're just going to drift and hope that you catch a white sea bass or a yellowtail or calico bass or a sand bass, because those fish live on the spots. So it's imperative that you get your boat anchored up on the spot. So when you throw your line in the water, your bait's actually going back to the fish's house. Now, if you drift, you're going to get a bite, and then you're not going to get a bite for another hour or so until you drift by another fish's house, or you may never drift by a fish's house again if you're drifting. But if you're anchored, you're anchoring on their house. You're anchoring out where they live, and then you're going to start to chum and increase the prey density level in the water. When you increase the prey density level and there's any type of current, even the fish that don't want to eat are still going to eat because of the fact that that current is moving so quickly and the food is going by at such a nice pace that even if they're not hungry, they're still going to eat because of the fact that they are opportunistic feeders, and they're going to feed when the food's coming by. But if you get to a spot and you anchor up and there is no current, then you got to pull your anchor and go to another spot where there is current. So all these things matter, and they matter a lot, and you need to pay attention and you need to watch what's going on. And many times when I'm fishing with somebody or they're fishing on their private boat and they go, hey, fish stopped biting. Why did they stop biting? The only reason they stopped biting is because the current stopped and you didn't even notice it. And then it's time to go find a place where the current's going again, or maybe have lunch, relax for a little while and hope that the current comes back to the spot you were fishing. But gang, if you're just nilly-willy drifting around out there, you're probably never, ever going to catch. You're not going to catch anything because you're not actually hanging out at the fish's house. It's just the way it is. And I wish it was different. I wish I could say it was better, but it's not. It's just the way it is, gang. You got to really pay attention to that current and make sure that you're on that current or somewhere where that current is flowing, because it's going to change what you catch. Here's how I try to explain it to a lot of our members when I was out guiding with people. I would say, okay, you ever fished a stream or a river for trout? When you're there, the easiest spot to fish in the river is where the water's not moving. You can throw your line in the water and it'll sit there all day long. But there won't be any fish there because the fish are going to be out in the stream or the river where the water's flowing rapidly. Why? Because they know that's where that food's going to. In the stagnant areas where there's no flow, the fish aren't hanging out there because of the fact that there's no food. Same with the current. And yeah, it has a lot to do with rockfish fishing too. The current and the drift is why we catch rockfish. If you're not drifting and you stop on the rockfish spot and the bait's just laying there, there's a chance it won't get bit. But if it's drifting and going quick, then you got a good chance of getting bit, because that sense of urgency is happening to those fish down deep when that bait's getting drugged by them. They're like, oh, I better eat it before it goes away. That's the same with the current. The current, it does the same, and I'm just answering that for a guy over here on TikTok. But the same thing happens with the current. When the current's flowing really good, the fish start to really get active and get into that feeding mode, and they get out there on the front of that rock or the front of that kelp or whatever it is, and the bigger fish move to the front edge and the smaller fish are in the back edge. And that's what's happening out there. When the current is flowing, all the fish are moving around the spot until until the current starts to flow, and then they move to the upper end of the kelp or the rock or whatever you're fishing. So those things matter like tremendously. Like if you're not understanding current and how it works, then there's a good chance you're not going to be catching any fish when you go fishing. It's imperative that you understand the current, and that current is a big deal. So I'm putting this code up, the QR code for Promar Ahi USA. Those of you over on TikTok, listen, go to Promar Ahi USA while we're talking right now, because I'm going to show a couple of products. We're going to do this real quick. Those of you that are on TikTok and YouTube, grab that QR code, go over there to the Promar store and just wander around in there. Once you enter the store, that's going to enter you into the contest. They're going to give away another bag of swag this month. I already talked to Ben over there and Steve. They said, all you got to do is enter their store and you got an opportunity to win that bag of swag. But look, have you seen these new rock cod squirts? These big, massive ones? Now, we've been talking about these little ones for a very long time, these small rock cod squirts, but look at these extra large jumbo rock cod squirts that they have on the market now. Are these things incredible? If you look, they have a, whoops, let's turn it over. Sorry about that. They have a 9/0 hook. They're rigged with 80-pound fluorocarbon. These things are great for fishing that deep water. I've been talking to a few of our members that have been using these. They've been getting those big reds. They've been getting lingcod on them. They got the pink and they got the white, and they glow in the dark just like the smaller ones, just like these guys. And these things are fishing so good right now down there. If you're over there at the Promar store, Promar IE USA, and you went through there and you're on there and you're wandering around in the store, go look at these products. We already talk about the smaller ones. You ought to have them in your tackle box all the time. But how cool would it be to drop these big boys down there and see if we can get a big lingcod or a big red or a big salmon grouper on these jumbos, on these extra large rock cod squirts, gang. I think it's a game changer. I'm so glad that Ben and Steve came out with these things. And I know some of you have been using them for a while. But when I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to be dropping these things down on that outside edge of the 14-mile bank on any of those deep spots up or down the coast where we can actually fish. And then next year, there's a rumor that they may open up that cowcod fishery. These things would be insane to drop on the cowcod. So go over to Promar Ahi, hit that QR code, check it out. Those of you on TikTok, put in the code YSWG, and then you're going to get your 10% discount. Those of you that grab the QR code, you don't have to put in any code because you're already shopping with my QR code. You don't have to buy anything simply by visiting the store. Elliot's going to be able to grab everybody's name, and then on July 1st, we'll give away that grab bag of free stuff from Promar, just like we're going to do for Opson. And it should be fun and it should be bitching. And you won't even believe all the things that they sell over at Promar Ahi USA. When you're over there at the store, you'll just be blown away by all the things that are available for you over there. So let's go back to what we were talking about, anchoring on spots and learning how to read the conditions and how important to put this piece of the puzzle together, gang. You want to make sure that you know exactly how much chain and how much rope you have line on your boat. And then what you want to do is you want to take a few minutes of your busy day in your storage yard or on your dock or anything and lay your line, lay the rope out and mark it so you know how many feet you actually have. Then what you're going to do is when you anchor, let's just say we're at White Rock at San Clemente Island and we're anchoring in 90 feet of water and we have 30 feet of chain. How much am I going to let out, Dave? How much? Well, I don't count the chain. That's not in the scenario. So I'm going to let that chain lay flat on the bottom and I'm going to let out 100 feet of rope. Therefore, if I let out 100 feet of rope, I'm taking into effect that maybe that first 10 feet's it's going to be swaying with the wind and the current. So when I drop out the 100 feet of rope, the chain's going to lay flat on the bottom, and that's going to allow that anchor to have a chance to catch and allow it to dig into the sand or dig into the mud. One thing you don't want to do is be dropping your anchor in the structure. So you need to learn, like we talked about yesterday on the show, you need to know how to use your fish finding apparatus to distinguish soft bottom from hard bottom. We like to put our anchor in the soft bottom because we want to fish on the hard bottom. If we drop our anchor on the hard bottom, then we're going to be fishing in the soft bottom, because by the time we get tight on the anchor, then all the spot is going to be underneath the boat or off the bow. And then when we throw our line in the water with the current, it's going to be back there in the mud or in the sand where there's no fish. So it's going to be imperative that you learn the difference between soft bottom and hard bottom. And if you don't know what any of that is, or if you don't know how to distinguish that, or if you've scoured through Instagram or TikTok or YouTube trying to figure out who made videos on how to figure out how to use the fish finding apparatus, well, stop. Go to my website, yoursaltwaterguide.com, or call me at 949-374-0786. I'll give you a free look. We go over all your ground tackle, how it all works. We go over the fish finder and how it works, and how to distinguish soft bottom from hard bottom. But I think the biggest problem a lot of people have, they're afraid to drop the anchor because they're afraid it's going to get stuck on the bottom and they're never going to see it again. Well, that is not going to happen if you know how to use your fish finder. And we talked about that yesterday. That was the number 2 thing. Do not leave the dock until you know how to use that machine. That way you will not be losing your anchor when you go to set your anchor. I don't care if you're in Tahiti, if you're in Texas, if you're in Florida, or you're in Southern California. You need to know how to drop your anchor. You have to, gang, because there's going to be a time where you got a problem and you're going to need to drop the anchor and wait till some can save you. If you don't know how to drop it, if you don't know anything about it, that's going to make for a very long, uncomfortable day as you drift up onto the beach. But gang, why do you want to lay your rope out on the dock, anchor line, out on the dock? You want to measure it. You want to find out how much rope you have. And then some guys do it every 25 feet, some do it 50 feet, some do it 100 feet. You want to mark your line. Maybe a little bit of paint on it, green for 100 feet, red for 200 feet, yellow for 300 feet, something like that. Skip it up a little bit. Mark your 25, mark 50. But if you're dropping your anchor in 100 feet of water and you have 30, 40, 50 feet of chain, that does not count in the scenario of how much do I want to let out. You're going to drop the depth of the water in your line, your rope. So if it's 90, 100 feet, you're going to drop out 100 feet, 150 feet of rope. If the wind's blowing, 200 feet of rope. Line. Why? Because it's going to give you a better angle. It's going to give that chain a chance to dig the anchor into the bottom. The chain is actually what is allowing your anchor to hold fast on the bottom. But you don't want straight chain either. I just saw that. I just read that. No, straight chain's horrible. Straight chain is bad for your boat. It's bad for fishing, and it's bad for everything down there, because first of all, when you drop all that chain down on the bottom, it's going to go down in a big clump, or it's going to go down in a big giant mess down on the bottom. And it's not going to allow your boat to come back on the line. Sorry. It's not going to allow it to come back on the line and get tight. That chain's all going to be just dragging across the bottom as your boat starts to get tight on it. And the other thing is, when you're fishing with straight chain, anytime a swell or anytime the wind blows a little bit harder, that noise that straight chain is making in the water as the boat comes tight and comes loose, and comes tight and comes loose, it's a bam, 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 bam. If there's any type of fish like a white sea bass around that you're trying to catch, or yellowtail or anything like that, it's going to scare those fish away, that loud clunking of that chain. Another thing is, if you're trying to sleep and you have straight chain, it's miserable. So you always want to have a lot of line or rope, if you will. 300 is what I would have on most of the boats I run. And on the bigger Vikings and stuff, we have 500 feet, 600 feet of line, just because there's times where we're dropping our anchor out in a little bit deeper water, or we're dropping our anchors in places where the wind is blowing very, very hard. When the wind is blowing very, very hard, the more line you let out, the better it's going to be. And also, yes, Brian, it doesn't have any give when you're slamming back and forth in a swell there's no give. So you're just tearing the bow of your boat apart. You're tearing up on that pulpit. You're putting a ton of strain on the pulpit of your boat. Most boats, that roller goes out through the pulpit. And if you think about it, now your boat's becoming a giant fishing pole. Every time that chain goes tight, the whole boat is jerking forward and it's starting to bend your boat. It's not good. It's never good to have straight chain on your boat, ever. And I know a lot of the salespeople that sold you the boat, they tell you want straight chain. That's because they've never anchored a boat before. They're very good at selling them, but they're not very good at maneuvering them or dropping the anchor 30, 40 times a month, 50, 60 times a week, whatever that number is. I've been blessed to start my fishing career off in the sport boat industry because of my father. And sport boat, we drop the anchor so many times a day, it's incredible. And when I was running that Wild and Sack, we would drop the anchor. Some days, Mike, Chase, Shayla, Max, they can all tell you, we would drop the anchor so many times in a day, and they would just, their minds would be blown. Resetting the anchor again? Yeah, because I want to catch fish. I want to make sure we're on the spot. I want to make sure that we're there, that we're on the spot, and that we're got an opportunity to catch fish. That's why I'm resetting the anchor all the time. It would be very easy to be lazy and just drop the anchor once, and if it didn't work out, well, I'm not pulling it again. On my skiff, on my 22-foot Wellcraft, Kelly Girl and I fish on it all the time. I have to hand pull that anchor. I don't have a winch. And I would hand pull it 3 or 4 times in a 2-hour period fishing with Kelly Girl if we weren't on the spot proper, because it matters. And Kelly Girl doesn't want to go out there and just relax. She wants to actually catch fish. And you should too. If you're going out there and thinking, oh, we're just going to go out, throw the anchor over and spend the day wherever we're at, what are you doing? The day you go out on your boat should be the day you go fishing and catching. That's why my website is so important. Also over on the website, gang, something that we talked about yesterday. And I have a whole thing. I have a whole thing about moon phase and how important it is, and when it's full, when it's not full. All those things matter tremendously. Just talking to someone on TikTok. Yeah, all those things matter tremendously. And that's a different subject for a different day. But if you want to learn more about it, go to my website, yoursaltwaterguide.com, or download the app. If you're on TikTok, you're probably good at downloading apps. I got the best fishing app ever made for fishermen. But back to what we were talking about. So if you don't understand how this whole anchor in the boat thing works and you want more information, you can get that at the website also. But we were talking about the community that we've built. Dan, Kim, Brian, Mike, Lewis, so many people. If you go over there and you look after yesterday's conversation I had with everybody about, hey, I know more than 2 of you went fishing this weekend. All of a sudden, bam, we got 5 brand new reports from people that saw our podcast yesterday and were like, oh, that's right, I got a report. Gang, when you report, it is so fun for all of us because, listen, the members of my website, they're at work all day. And when you're at work, the last thing you want to do is actually work. So when you post your reports, it gives people something to do. So they're digging through those reports and they're looking at them, they're scrolling through them, and they're seeing the comments and they're seeing all the pictures of all your cool fish. Gang, you're helping out the fishermen, you're helping out the workforce, because the last thing the workforce wants to do at work is work. So just remember, when you leave a post over there on the fish reports or the community, you're actually helping everybody too, because we all want to read what you caught. We all want to read about what happened when you were out there. Also, that cool report that talks about seeing all the fish yesterday and not catching anything, that matters a lot because we know now where you were, what you did, and how you did it. And we're not wallowing in the fact you didn't catch anything. We're stoked that we know what you did and how you went and approached it. And now we have a better idea of maybe what we should do when we're out there. All good reports, bad reports, all reports matter, whether you caught fish or not. They all matter, and they matter a lot. And it gives us all a little hope and a little more to think about when we go out there. Also, you want to, on Thursdays at 3:30 in the afternoon, between 3:30 and 4:30, I put out those game plans on the website, yoursaltwaterguide.com. Those game plans are crucial to making sure you have a good time when you're out on the water, gang. All I'm trying to do is help you to catch fish when you go fishing on your private boat. I don't know anybody else that's willing to do all that for you and do a podcast and ask you for a whopping $9.99 a month for the best up-to-date info you can possibly have, talking to some of the hot dogs of the industry. They share what they're doing, where they're doing it, and how they're doing it. Everybody shares with me. All right. So I'm just letting you know. There's a bunch of websites out there you can go be a part of, but I don't know any of them that have been doing this for a living for 48 years that have the code group of people that I have that I can call and ask them what's going on out of the water. So grab that QR code right there and jump on my app. Plus, I spent a lot of money this year developing that app for all of you. So you guys have an app available right at your fingertips. You can pull up the spots on all the spots. You're at Catalina, you're at Clemente, you're at the Coronado Islands, you're at the Channel Islands, and you don't know where to go and what to do. And you're sick and tired of fishing for boats. Why would you fish for boats? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I've been to Florida, I've been to Texas, I've been to California, I've been to Cabo, and I am shocked every day by the amount of captains that spend their day fishing for boats. It happens down here in Cabo all the flipping time. We start getting bit. Next thing you know, we got 5, 6, 8 boats on us. It happens in California. It happens in Texas. It happens in Florida. And you know why? It's because the people that are out there on their boats didn't take the moment of their time to go check and get a game plan before they go fishing. All right? So check out that QR code. Or if you're afraid of my website, I don't know, Dave, I'm scared. I don't want to go on there. I know you got over 4,000 members and most of them are super happy. I hate being happy. All right, well, just go out there and try to figure it out on your own. Spend the time out there trying to figure it out on your own. And give me a call in 40 years. I'll be 105 then. And you may have got a little tiny bit of the information that I have by figuring it out on your own. And don't listen to those people over there on the other websites that tell you, oh, going on someone's website and seeing what they're telling you to do. That's us. That's not right. You need to go figure it out on your own like I had to. Well, that person's lying. And that person would have loved to have actually had someone teach them, but they had to go and beg, borrow, and steal information from people to try to figure out what to do when they went out there. None of us are born knowing how to fish in Southern California, Texas, Florida, wherever we fish. You don't wake up in the morning one day and go, hey, I have it all figured out. I got the puzzle solved. I know exactly what to do. So you want to gather as much information as you can. I believe the website and the app that I put together are the very, very best. They're coming soon, Joe. They're coming soon. I'm just waiting for the guy to call me and tell me that they're done. And then my good buddy John Stanley's going to send them out to everybody. But, gang, we're going to go right back to this anchoring thing. The 90% of the reason why people don't anchor is because they're lazy. Okay? You can't go about this fishing thing in a lazy manner. You have to learn how to anchor. And it's imperative to make sure that you understand soft bottom from hard bottom. I know we're being redundant. We're talking about it again. I don't want you to lose your anchor when you drop your anchor. I want you to know that when you drop your anchor, you're going to get your anchor back. So that being said, make sure that when you're about to drop your anchor, you look at your fish finding apparatus and you make sure you're on sand or mud. You're not on rock, because if you drop your anchor in the rock, there's a good chance that chain's going to get lodged in a crack or a crevice. The anchor itself, very rarely is the anchor ever caught or stuck. It's the chain that gets wrapped up in those little crevices and cracks if you've ever dove. So you want to pay attention to that. You want to look at that and make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And that will save you a ton of problems. Another thing, remember when you drop your anchor, which way your boat is facing when you come tight on the anchor. Because there's times where you're out there fishing and the wind switches and you swing around. Before you go to pull your anchor, make sure, have someone go up to the front of the boat, look over the side and see which way that line's going, the anchor rope's going. Go up there and go, okay, it's off to the starboard side of the boat, the right side. Have them look over the side, or have your wife or girlfriend look over the side and go, honey, you got to go a little bit to the starboard, a little bit to the right. They're going to turn the boat and start to drive that way. You do not want to just start pulling your anchor. You don't want to just push that button from up in the bridge and not have a clue which way you're supposed to go. If you're by yourself, go up to the bow and look. Go over and look over the side by yourself. And I have a whole section on my website. I know it's hard to believe, but I have a whole section on pulling your anchor, which is super important also. The way you pull your anchor will decide whether you have an anchor anymore or not. So you want to go up to the bow and look over the side, and you want to drive up on the anchor line itself before you start pulling it. And then tap your winch and start to pull it up slow. And then as that angle starts to change, start to drive your boat around so that you're going to keep that line straight up and down on the bow. You do not want it to be having any angle on it while you pull it, because if there's an angle in it while you're pulling it, you're going to pull it into the structure. Remember, we're fishing rocks. We're fishing structure. So if we don't drive up to it when it's time to pull the anchor, we're going to actually pull it into the structure. Okay, we got an awful lot of people watching now. I just want to bring you back to this Anthony Shea Lifetime Conservation Award that's going to be given to Bill Shedd on August 3rd. Grab that QR code if you want to have dinner with Kelly Girl and I. We're going to be at the SeaWorld property after hours having a beautiful dinner celebrating Bill Shedd. His father, Milton, was the creator of SeaWorld, but Bill Shedd owns AFCO. Phenomenal human being. He's going to get the Lifetime Conservation Award from Anthony Shea. We're all going to be there. The industry is going to be there. The only people that are missing are you. You got an opportunity to buy those tickets right now. Grab that QR code and get them, gang. After hours at SeaWorld, how spectacular is that? If that doesn't do it for you, how about dinner with my beautiful wife, Kelly Girl, on the SeaWorld property? Grab that QR code and be at that dinner. It's going to be incredible. But gang, back to what we were talking about, the anchor. When you're up on the bow and you look over the side and you tell me, hey, it's off to the starboard side, I want to drive the boat up, but you want to watch too and let them know, hey, the rope's starting to go under the boat. Tap the winch. Get that rope or the line. I'm sorry, I keep saying rope because I'm talking to everyone and I don't want to offend those superstars of boating. So get that rope straight up and down so you're not pulling your anchor into the structure, okay? And then when you get it straight up and down, you're also going to look over the side, whoever's helping you, and you're going to see that that line is headed in another direction. So you're going to have to tell the captain, hey, little more to the port, little more to the port. You're going to tap, tap, tap. You're not going to start pulling on that anchor full speed until it's straight up and down. And this is super important because I've seen so many people just walk up into their bridge, don't put anybody on the bow, and just start pulling their anchor. Gang, you don't even know what's going on. Someone has to go up to the bow and look over the side. You could have line wrapped around your anchor line. You could have a whole bunch of kelp up there. You could have so many different things. The line could be going back underneath your boat. You just don't know until you go to the bow and get a good look at what your anchor line is doing. And it's so important. It's going to be going, even me, been doing this my whole life. I go up to the bow and I look over the side and I'm like, how in the holy heck is the anchor line headed that way? Justin talked about it yesterday. Justin talked about he couldn't believe it when he went up to the bow to pull his anchor and he saw that the line was going underneath his boat. It doesn't make any sense. But what's going to happen is if you don't go up there and look, you're going to get yourself in a whole bunch of trouble. You're going to look down there and you're going to go, or you're going to start pulling the anchor, and the next thing you know, it's going to be stuck on the bottom because you approached it in a lazy way. You didn't want to walk that, let's say, most people that 3 or 4 feet up to the bow on some of the bigger boats, 50, 60 feet up to the bow, whatever it is. Someone has to go up to the bow before you pull the anchor and see which way the line is going. Everybody that's ever had their anchor stuck, I'll guarantee you, if you stopped and thought about it for a little while, you would go, oh, that's right. I didn't go look. It's imperative to go look, gang. And another thing, remember which way the bow of your boat was pointed when you dropped your anchor. I always look at the compass and go, okay, I'm dropping the anchor 120 degrees. The bow of the boat's pointed 120 degrees when I drop the anchor. When I go to pull the anchor, I'm going to make sure that the bow of my boat is at 120 degrees too, so I'm not pulling it into the structure, that I'm not pulling it around the backside of the rock or whatever. All that stuff matters, gang. You do not want to lose your anchor. Anchors are very expensive. Chain and rope are very expensive. Another thing I like to tell my members is if you have straight chain, and I know a lot of you do, that's not a bad thing. You're going to take a second out of your busy day. You're going to go down and you're going to measure off. Now, if your boat's got straight chain and you have a 50-foot boat, I'm not going to tell you to only use 50 feet of chain. I'll say use up 75 feet and then cut it with a pair of bolt cutters at the anchor, not at the, if it took to rope or line, you don't want to cut it back there. You want to cut it up at the anchor and then reshackle your anchor so that that rope or line will go through your cat head, your anchor winch. A lot of people cut it at the wrong spot and then they're like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have cut it there. Don't cut it where it's hooked to your line. Cut it down at your anchor and then take another 75 feet, put it in a 5-gallon bucket or put it in a plastic tote, put it in your bow compartment or put it in your engine room, somewhere where you can get to it. And throw a spare anchor in there. It doesn't have to be the big anchor that you use every day, but a nice spare anchor will help you out tremendously if you ever lose your anchor so you're not stuck. All right? I'm just telling you that because you don't want to throw all that chain away if you're straight chained, and then make sure you have 300 or 400 feet of line of rope. That'll go through your cat head, your anchor winch. You has to go through there. And every maker of every anchor winch, if you go to their website, it's going to tell you what line goes through their anchor winch. And they all pull a line just like they pull chain. You won't believe it until you see it. I know you're like, well, my anchor winch just pulls chain. It pulls rope too, or line too. I promise you that. You're just going to have to do a tiny bit of research and figure out which line works. Then you're going to have to find someone to splice it if you don't have any line on there. And the splice has to be the right size to fit through the cat or the anchor winch. I know it's a lot of work. I know. Captain Dave, you can do anything you want. I'm just telling you what you want to do if you want to be successful every time you go fishing on your private boat. You can do whatever you want. I never tell you not to do whatever you want, but I tell you that if you want to be successful, you want to learn how to anchor and you want to learn how the pros do it with the right ground tackle, and it matters more than you can even imagine. All right. So if anybody's got a burning question, a burning desire on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, shoot it up there right now. We're going to wrap this thing up. Don't forget to go to Promar Ahi USA. It's Promar Ahi USA Tuesday. When you enter the store through the QR code, that's going to let us know who you are, and you don't need to purchase anything. And then on July 1st, we're going to give away a cool swag bag of free stuff from Promar. I'll bet you Ben and Steve will even throw in some of these extra large rock cod squirts, gang. I know they'll throw in some of these smaller rock cod squirts, live deception flash jigs, probably a hat like this, maybe a shirt. But the only way you can enter into that is to go to the store, and you can enter it through the QR code, or on TikTok, you can go to promarahiusa.com. Enter the store and check it all out. Elliot gathers everybody's name that enters the store, and then we'll give away that gift pack. I want to thank everybody for always watching the show. Gang, don't forget about the stars. You can leave stars on here like Mike Lewis, Augie, Dan and Kim, Scott. The same people every day leave me stars, and I super appreciate it, and I thank you all very, very much. Mike's got the longest streak of giving stars. It's an astronomical number. I want to thank each and every person. Thank you very much. I saw some people asking some questions about going out on sport boats. Gang, there's only one person, and he's not here, and he's not answering your questions over here on the side. There's only one person on the sport boat that knows what they're going to do when you go out on that sport boat, and that's the captain. That's who you should be asking, what should I be doing? When you get down to the landing, find the captain, talk to him, ask him, hey, what's working, what's not working? Run up to the tackle shop before you leave and get whatever the captain tells you to get. Don't ask people on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, hey, I'm going out on a boat next week. What should I use? You don't want to know what they know. You don't. 60 weeks in a row, Mike Lewis. My gosh, no one's going to ever do that. No one loves me like you do. Well, maybe Kelly girl. But gang, I'm telling you, how do you leave stars? It's the same way over on TikTok. You can leave gifts. You can leave the gifts on TikTok. You can leave the stars on Facebook. Stars or something you buy. You're off on the tribute with Mike. That'll be fun, Sean. I've been missing you, buddy. I saw you yesterday comment on a post. I was like, wow, there you are. I haven't seen you for a long time. Everybody, the amount of people that are watching our stuff, the amount of people that are commenting and posting blows my mind every day. Right now, I'm not even making this up. We're on an average of 30 million views a month on Facebook alone. That doesn't count TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, which are all hauling butt. Don't get me wrong. They're hauling butt. Go look at for something fun. Over on Facebook, we're going up about 1,000 subscribers a day. Over on Instagram, we're going up about 5,000 subscribers a week. Over on TikTok, they mess with that algorithm all the time. We were going up 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers a day. They just shut the algorithm off over on TikTok. They just shut it down totally. We haven't moved. We're getting like 4 or 5 views a day. It's the most amazing algorithm I've ever seen over here on TikTok. I don't understand it. I've sent them 50,000 emails. It doesn't make sense to me because on this show alone, we get 1,000 to 1,500 views. And then if you go look at our videos, when they release them, when they'll release the algorithm on TikTok, we'll get 100,000 views in 15 minutes. Then they slam the door right away. It doesn't make any sense because I don't understand why they do that over there, but they do it. Everybody on TikTok, you can see it. I used to get millions of views on TikTok. Now we get a video that gets 100,000 views. They shut it down immediately. I don't understand it. Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube, they don't do that over there. I don't know why they do it on TikTok. It doesn't make any sense. I've asked them 100 times. But that's what's going on. Thank you all very, very much for everything you do for me and Kelly Girl. We appreciate it. Everybody, thank you very, very much. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Should be a fun show. We'll see what happens.